right now at 10.
I feel that we did justice.
I certainly respect their work as jurors, and I respect their verdict, but I strongly disagree with it.
Our coverage of the Robert Ferrante guilty verdict starts now.
Live from the KDKA Broadcast Center in downtown Pittsburgh. This is KDKA TV News at 10 on the CW.
Tonight, Pitt researcher Robert Ferrante is looking at life in prison, no parole. A jury rejecting his claim that he had nothing to do with the cyanide poisoning death of his wife. Good evening, I'm Ken Rice. This is a trial that grabbed national attention. At the center, a married couple, both highly credentialed medical experts, one of them accused of murdering the other. Tonight, a jury said Robert Ferrante was guilty of killing his wife. The family of the victim, Autumn Klein, had a simple message as they were leaving the courtroom. Tonight we have team coverage, Ralph Iannotti with legal analysis. But first to Harold Hayes. He's covered the trial from day one and spoke with jurors right after they convicted Ferrante. Harold.
Well, not long after they convicted Robert Ferrante of first-degree murder, 3 jurors agreed to talk about their experience. Some wanted to give their names, others did not, but they all said they believed that the first blood test, the one that showed a lethal level of cyanide, was good enough for them.
I feel that we did justice.
I hope we did justice for them. My thoughts and prayers go out to her family and friends.
That is the message to the family of Autumn Klein from jurors number 6 and 7. After their first-degree murder conviction for Robert Ferrante, they reached their verdict approaching the 16th hour of deliberations. It was announced by juror number 7, the foreman, a store manager with an MBA. What helped sway him? Among other things, his perception that Ferrante wasn't consistent in his story about the night she collapsed.
When Dr. Ferrante made the statement, number of different statements where he was in the house when Autumn Klein came into the house. That's what really, didn't really make sense to me. So that's one of the reasons, why I reached the verdict of guilty.
The jurors listened a second time to the 911 call looking for more clues and said tonight that evidence, including the groans of the victim, were hard to listen to.
To hear the moaning and groaning and someone helpless, and then to come to the verdict of guilty and realize what was happening in that moment is very heart-wrenching, and to understand anybody could do that.
Helen Ewing was juror number 3, one of only 4 women on the panel of 12.
I empathize with the fact that it would have been incredibly difficult for me to make that decision to send someone to life in prison. I had to be absolutely certain, and that took me an incredibly long time. In the end, for me, it was very hard for me to accept and to believe that he could have done it. But I felt that the facts were clear, and I couldn't argue with them.
Ferrante will be formally sentenced to life in prison in February. From the Allegheny County Courthouse downtown, Harold Hayes, KDKA TV News on Pittsburgh's CW.
All right, Harold, thanks. So what were the turning points in this case? How did the jury view Ferrante taking the stand? Our coverage continues with Ralph Iannotti and some analysis of this case now. Ralph.
Thanks very much, Ken. From the beginning, this was one sensational murder case, a prominent researcher accused of killing his wife. With the trial over now, what may have been the turning points and any second thoughts on the part of the defense putting the accused killer on the stand? Just after a jury found Robert Ferrante guilty of murdering his wife, his lawyer said he felt putting Ferrante on the stand was still the right decision.
I thought he did extremely well, and I thought he was very candid, and I thought he explained exactly what he was doing and the history of the case, and he was telling the truth. So for whatever reason, they must not have bought him.
Prosecutors said the victim, 41-year-old neurologist Dr. Autumn Klein, was poisoned with an energy drink laced with cyanide. They said the lethal poison was purchased by Ferrante and that Google searches from his computer revealed he had researched the poison's medical treatment and detection methods. Attorney Phil DeLucente has no connection to the Ferrante trial.
The one fatal question that was posed to Dr. Ferrante on the stand and that he could not answer was, what did you do with the missing 8 grams of cyanide that you had ordered and stored in your laboratory? And he said, quote, I don't know.
For them to assume that there was beyond a reasonable doubt lethal levels of cyanide in her blood is to me, quite frankly, disappointing that they held that.
One of the defense's key witnesses, Dr. Cyril Wecht, testified he could not determine how Klein died because he thought the cyanide test was unreliable. But Phil DeLucente thinks Wecht's testimony had little effect.
I think the smoking gun, it was overlooked because of Dr. Cyril Wecht on the defense team, but the smoking gun was our own medical examiner getting on the stand saying there was cyanide in her blood. There was cyanide in her blood that had been tested, and that was the reason that she had died.
Now, Mr. Diefenderfer said while he found the jury's verdict late this afternoon both heartbreaking, disappointing, and he disagreed with it, nonetheless, he respected it. We're live in the newsroom tonight. I'm Ralph Iannotti, KDKA TV News on Pittsburgh CW.
Thanks, Ralph. In a statement tonight, the Allegheny County District Attorney's Office said this: DA Stephen Zappala would like to thank the members of the jury for their hard work in what was obviously a very difficult task, both emotionally and physically. And Autumn Klein's parents said, while we are pleased that the person responsible for Autumn's death has been brought to justice, nothing will ever fill the emptiness that we feel in our family and in our hearts. Coming up on KDKA TV News at 11.
Did you look at Dr. Ferrante when the verdict was read?
I did, yes.
Stacey Smith with an exclusive one-on-one interview with juror number 10. Deeper insight into what persuaded the jury to convict. KDKA TV News at 11. Now an update to the JetBlue flight from Pittsburgh to Boston that made an emergency landing after a toddler on board went into cardiac arrest. The pilot radioed in saying the boy was in critical condition. The flight was given priority landing at Logan Airport and was met by an ambulance, but a doctor from Pennsylvania played a critical role until the plane landed.
He responded and he provided medical attention to the child that was very helpful.
The child was not conscious when the flight landed, but did have a pulse. His mother, father, and older brother were also on the flight. The families from the Boston area. No word tonight on the child's condition. A woman was hit by a car while crossing a busy road this morning. It happened at Green Tree and Swallow Hill Roads in Scott. Police say the woman in her late 50s was walking against the light in the rain and in the dark.
It's dangerous in the daytime as it is, because it's such a busy intersection, but at night it's even worse because you can't see and people can't see you.
The driver did stop. Police say at this point it does not appear the driver was at fault. The victim was taken to the hospital. The man accused of kidnapping a woman off a street in Philadelphia apparently has a very dark past. Police say Delvin Barnes choked his ex-wife 10 years ago and abducted a 16-year-old girl in Virginia last month. They say Barnes hit the girl in the head with a shovel, put her in his trunk, and later raped and tortured her. A duplex caught fire this morning in Westmoreland County. 2 people injured. Smoke and flames were shooting out a second-floor window. The home here on Puritan Avenue in Unity. A woman in a wheelchair was taken to the hospital, as was her adult son. At one point, there was confusion about how many people were in the duplex.
Her one son that got burned in the hospital come running over, and he had this battery charger with him, and I told him, get the thing the hell out of here and go rescue your mother.
The home appeared to be destroyed. A man accused of setting a fire at a local shopping center is now headed to trial. Jonathan Szabo waived a preliminary hearing today. He worked at the Dollar General store at Tri-County Plaza in Rostraver. His family and lawyers say Szabo has significant developmental problems and once set his own house on fire.
We all feel bad for people that are of diminished capacity, but there comes a point when you have to be responsible for your actions, and that's kind of how we feel.
The fire caused about $2 million in damage. Governor Tom Corbett says Penn State probably should not have fired Joe Paterno. He told the Philadelphia Inquirer that technically Paterno complied with the law in dealing with Jerry Sandusky and that Penn State trustees should have let Paterno end his career after the 2011 season. Penn State student, meantime, is accused of selling drugs out of his dorm room. Police say they set up 2 controlled buys and busted Austin Carriera for dealing cocaine, Xanax, and other drugs out of Sproul Hall. Carriera graduated from Seneca Valley High School. State education officials out with new performance scores for nearly 3,000 public schools in the state. The top score in Allegheny County went to Pine Richland High School, narrowly ahead of Mount Lebanon Senior High. Allard Elementary in the Moon District ranks 3rd. In fact, the Moon District has 4 schools in the top 10. The lowest scoring school in the county is Wilkinsburg Senior High School. Academy Charter is a school for juvenile offenders in Pittsburgh, one of 2 charter schools in the bottom 5. We have a link to the reports on all the schools at kdka.com. It's going to be a busy weekend downtown. What you need to know to get around the parking and construction roadblocks. Plus, they're supposed to help protect you, but are they doing the opposite? The fatal flaw, some say, is in new guardrails and where you'll find them on local roads. And time to lace up. Which ice rinks are now open? Next.
A lot of clouds around the area this afternoon, and a chilly afternoon, too. Clouds are beginning to break up, and it's still chilly outside. 32 degrees with fair skies and a southwest breeze at 3 miles an hour. Lows will head down in the upper 20s tonight, and it will stay chilly through the weekend, but there will be some sunshine both tomorrow and Sunday before an up and down temperature swing next week. Details coming up.